Your journey has been an interesting one up to here. You've questioned so much more than those around you. You've even questioned yourself as to how you could have grown into these thoughts. Am I crazy? When did I begin to think differently? Why do people in general appear so limited in their thought process? Rest assured, you are not alone. The world is slowly waking up to what you already know inside, yet can't quite verbalize. Welcome to the Spiritual Dope Podcast. The show that answers the questions you never even knew to ask, but needed the answers to. Questions about you, this world, the people in it. And most importantly, how do I proceed now moving forward? We don't claim to have all the answers, but we sure do love living in the question. Time for another hit of Spiritual Dope with your host, Brandon Henley. Let's get right into today's episode.
Hey there, Spiritual Dope. I am on today with Jenna Dalton. She is an intuitive healer, facilitator, teacher, artist, mother, and musician. She has joyfully led retreats, team mentorship workshops, private healing sessions, lesson camps, choirs, conferences, and classes for over 20 years. She loves to share her joy of love, art, music, and meditation by teaching how to build tools towards realignment, healing, and cultivating creativity. Jenna, thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me. It's so great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've been trying to put this together for like 6 months, give or take, something like that. Finally, I've been looking forward to connecting and just having this conversation. Mm-hmm. So thanks. Looking forward to it. So I always like to start this off with the whole idea that we're kind of vessels for source energy, right? Whatever that looks like to you, and that you and I will be having a conversation, but whoever's listening, they're hearing something completely different, right? They're not even hearing what we're saying. And this message can only be delivered through Jenna by source on this podcast to that person right now. What's that message?
What's that message? Love reigns. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at right now is, I just keep coming back to that, to how can I cultivate more open heart? How can I get deeper into love? I feel like that is my direct connection to the universe, great spirit, whatever you want to call it. That's my direct connection. So, yeah. And then just all the fun ways to practice that, all the fun ways to play with that while we're human beings here on this planet.
Every time I go to like any energy work session, they're always like, your heart is really closed off. I'm like, I know, right? Thanks. This isn't news, but it sounds to me like your heart might be a little bit more open.
I was going to say, that's funny because every time I get when they're like, wow, you need to close that up a little bit.
Right. You're taking it on for everybody. You're like, right. You know what? I saw that guy down the street. His heart was like shut down. And I'm just going to step in and fill that need. So, a little bit more too on you for the audience, right? I love the story. We were just talking just a quick second before we got going here was that the whole idea of like being born on a 355-acre spiritual community, right? For your first 14 years of life, really into music, and then like packing up a U-Haul and going to the burbs. I mean, I don't know if you specifically went to the burbs, but I mean, I can only imagine, right? And of course, right? And like, I'm envisioning, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I'm just making things up as I go along, but I remember going to a couple like rainbow family gatherings back in the day. Was it anything like that, or was it like somewhat different? Are you familiar with the rainbow family gatherings?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like that, except that we had a farm that we had to run, and it was somewhat self-sustaining. So we had a lot of work to do. There were ditches to dig and cows to take care of, and harvesting and planting and gardening, and there's endless work to be done. So that I would say that's the biggest difference than like, when I would tell people, oh, I grew up in a commune, everyone's eyes kind of glaze over like,
yeah, they're like sex cult. I mean that's the first thing, right?
And they were having sex with everyone, and I was like, well, it's not exactly how it was.
Only on Saturdays.
I mean, that stuff definitely happened.
Yes, and
but more so, at least where I was, it really was a group of people who were trying to separate from like patriarchal society, capitalistic society, and try something else. And so it was a group of really cool people coming together, spiritually striving, and then trying to figure out how to get along together while we're collecting eggs and cooking. We had to cook meals for everybody. We had to feed everyone. And where I was, there was no city within 80 miles in any direction. So we were in the middle of nowhere. So we really had to, a toilet broke, we had to fix it. There was a flood, we had to deal with it. If the pipes froze, we had to deal with it. And so there was a lot of hard work too that went
into it. It's cool you had running water.
Yes.
I mean, look, right? I remember growing up, and my mom had some friends that I would go stay the summer with, and like we had to pump the water. There was no indoor plumbing and whatnot. So I mean, you're kind of living the life of luxury, is what I'm hearing.
Right.
Yeah,
we
running water is pretty cool.
That's right.
And then can you talk to me like what the spiritual community looked like, I guess, from a then perspective, right, as a child, to kind of like your lens back on it. What are your thoughts?
So growing up, it really was just kind of like a playground. I don't remember there definitely was. We had a meditation class for kids where they would actually bribe us with little chewable vitamin C's if we sat still for long enough, which I thought, now looking back, I find that so funny. So it was like a playground for me when I was growing up. Looking back, I can see, wow, I really embodied a lot of, I just kind of like got spiritual teachings in my DNA by being there, which I'm very thankful for. I feel like that's the gift I like to pay forward into the world, is that it's never been like a struggle for me to have like a spiritual connection, or I've never wondered if there's a God. I've never had that, like, it's just always been there. And so that I feel, I know that was just the gift that I got from that place. Growing up, I never talked about meditating, or we just did it. We just did yoga. We just did meditation. And it was just just like we cooked meals or we went to the bathroom. It was just another thing that we did. So it was kind of demystified for me in that way. And it was actually weirder when we came up here and I saw that not everybody did that. That was what was weird, was when I was 14 looking around going, oh, okay, I am really different. But I didn't really realize it until then.
Yeah, I mean, talk about that, right? Trying to go from this self-sustaining spiritual commune where, there's a little bit more togetherness, a little bit more of us as a whole, and then coming into, I'm sure like there was plenty of like materialism of sorts within that commune, but like, and then kind of seeing it en masse with like hyper commercialism and all this other stuff, right? Was it like sensory overload? And then like, I mean, God, having to go to school, I might have been mad.
I was very angry. I was an angry youth when I came up here. I mean, ironically, we came up here because there was no high school out there, and the closest high school was 80 miles away. And my older brother, like, took the bus there every day. He left at 5 a.m. and I just did not want to do that. I didn't want to be homeschooled. I think my parents were wise enough to recognize that I needed music and theater in my life. So in that way, I was very thankful that we came up here, because the cultural piece was very lacking out in the middle of nowhere in Nevada. So that piece was really wonderful for me. But yeah, I think the biggest shock was that even though, like you said, these things existed, maybe like humming underneath the surface, it was my first experience with like sexism, racism, homophobia, just flat out hating somebody for no reason. That kind of disconnection, I did not experience that in the first 14 years of my life. I just didn't experience that. Even in the ranch kids that I was friends with, that just wasn't there. And so that, I think, was what was most shocking for me. And I think that's where my anger came from, was that it was like suddenly I realized, wow, this world is not the utopian, amazing place that I thought it was, because that's what my life has been for the first 14 years.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I got to imagine a lot of that was romanticized, right? And just kind of came tumbling down. As, right. And I also think that too, you're out here, you're 80 miles away from any city. and you don't have the interrupt, and I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, what's the electricity situation like out there for you? I know you had running water, so I don't know, like, what's like the Wi-Fi and TV situation like, but like, right? So I mean, I gotta imagine, right? There's like no electromagnetic brain interference, right?
Right.
Maybe that's why all the teens are mad. Like maybe maybe they're just mad because like there's you're just kind of like energy passing through you and it's everybody else's shit.
Right. Right. And it's getting more intense because we have more and more
5G
devices.
baby. Yeah.
More and more devices.
Gotta turn it up.
Yeah.
To the next
yeah.
level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting
Yep.
for sure.
I didn't go, I went to school. There were only 30 people in the entire school, grades 1 through 8, granted, but
Wow.
not a single person had ADHD
Yeah.
or autism, or nobody had that. And, as a teacher now, I'm like, I wonder how much of it was the fact that they were out shoveling shit and working with cows instead of playing video games and watching shows, that I wonder how much of a difference that makes.
Sure. Well, I mean, I've got a 9 and an 11-year-old boy, right? And I too was once a wee lad that they were like, you need to sit still. I'm like, well, I don't really think, right, that we as humans were meant to sit still behind a desk at a young age for like 6 to 8 hours a day.
Forever.
Right?
Yeah.
Ever. Period. and then the whole idea too of like, oh, and like you're not going to let them, you're going to take away recess, you're going to take away this, and now like you're not going to let them burn off all that energy.
Right.
Who came up with this plan?
Yeah. When I was a Waldorf teacher, I started every day with jumping rope for half an hour. We just moved partially because of that, because there
Straight win right there.
Didn't feel like I could ask anybody to sit down in a chair when they're young and exuberant and what they want to do is move. And so we would do, okay, we're going to do math with jump roping. We're going to do spelling with jump roping, and then we'll go in and sit down. Let's exhaust you.
Brilliant. I mean, look, jump rope will do that. Jump rope will do that. Yeah. So when you talk about spirituality, like kind of always being a part of your life and always being and feeling connected, a quick, easy answer is like, what's spirituality mean to you, right? What's that look like for you internally, and how are you expressing that?
I think that that's a hard question to answer, but for me, it's just such a feeling of home. It's just such a feeling of I'm here, I'm comfortable in my skin. I feel in alignment. Like I feel like I'm in alignment with, I don't know, what is that? With just the flow, or just with, like my life is flowing and I'm flowing with it. And there's maybe something bigger and I'm a part of it. And just that connection and the play between those two things. I don't know how else to describe that.
That works, right?
That's a hard question.
So I mean, right, and I think that's where the challenge comes for most people. Somebody's like, "Well, this is what spirituality means," right? And somebody else is like, "No, you're wrong," right? I mean, like, you can't be wrong. That's your inner presence, and if you're in alignment, and if I read your story, I would say that you are, like, you've had such a really cool life, and you have found the places, at least, if I'm reading your bio, that you've been able to express who you are in alignment with who you are for the life that is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, let's move it forward, right? So you go to high school, you're big into music, what does that look like for you? Kind of going through the high school thing, coming out of the commune and moving us forward.
Well, initially it was, there was a mixed thing. There was the part of me that was 14 and just ready, because when you're 14, your world is expanding, right? And so my world expanded, and I loved that piece. I was really excited to live in an apartment complex. The idea of that was like so amazing. They're just little things like that. We have a swimming pool, that kind of stuff. And then I discovered choir and theater, and just like completely dove into that, and discovered the artist in me that was really thirsty. That was something that didn't get a whole lot of playtime out on the farm. And so that was amazing. And then there was a lot of, I also just really loved like the counterculture. I, of course, was very attracted to the counterculture kids. And and enjoyed adventuring in that way. So high school was just it was a big adventure. I got in a lot of trouble and, just really, I really pushed it a lot. But one of the things that I had in my life was this nest of like 30 adults who had known me since birth and were holding space for me, even though I wasn't physically on the farm anymore, they still knew and loved me. And I reached out to them a lot with, because I was pushing my parents away, which is what's normal to do when you're 14 to 18 years old. But I still had all these adults that I could gain, insight from. And my dad connected me with a woman here, Jane sent to see her. She's an amazing yoga teacher. Oh my God, that saved my life in high school. Just deepening my yoga practice. And so finding those connections was really, really awesome up here too. So it wasn't, my adolescence wasn't as hard as it might have been. I in some ways it was a lot easier because I did have this, like I said, I had this support network. I had this village that was kind of all at that point, because the farm had kind of dwindled a bit. Everybody was all over the country. So there was kind of a network of support there that I definitely felt. I definitely felt that, and thank goodness for that. I think it probably saved my butt several times.
Without jotted down, it takes a village, right?
Yeah.
You literally had a village supporting you, and to have gotten in trouble a lot after coming from this culture of where you were to this other thing. I can only imagine. Like, what do you mean that's the rule? That doesn't make any sense.
I can't even make it through the what?
Weird. I thought this was a smoking corner. Right. I can only imagine some of the conversations too, and just trying to wrap your mind around it. Right. Coming from again, probably something that was a little bit more free in terms of at least your ability to express yourself as you were in sounds like these supportive people, right?
Yeah.
And then going also from a school of 30 in total to probably like, I don't know, 30 per class, give or take. I mean, yeah. And then a quick question too. So like, what were your parents doing? Like, they came from the farm. Yeah. And now they're doing what at the apartment? Like working in? What's happening?
My mom she's always been a teacher. So she taught there and she taught here. So it was more for her. It was probably less of a shock because it was just more kids to teach. My dad, however, was pretty much, for lack of a better word, the guru of this spiritual community. He was the one that led classes, led meditations, and he got a job at Nike. So he had quite a hard time. That also might have been part of the me acting out, is that my parents were not super there because they were in survival mode. They were just like, after 16 years for them of living on a farm, they were suddenly in the city and trying to survive. How do we pay rent? What do we do? All of the, what do you mean we have to have insurance for that? What do you mean we have to pay for Jenna to do this in school? And, all of that stuff. So I'm sure, my mom the other day even was describing it, how we made it through this day. We made it through today. Okay. Like that's kind of where they were at. So it was a big jump for them.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. And especially, going from guru to, I don't know, analytics or whatever he was doing.
That's exactly what he was doing, working on the computer.
Right. And just being like, I'd be mad. I'm mad now.
Yeah.
I'm mad for him. Mad for him. So then, you kind of make it through, and you start doing some adventuring, right? Let's talk about some of your adventuring, because I think you got some adventuring stories that, man, like I was saying earlier, it just sounds like you just kind of flowed from like one spot to another, doing your thing. I'm sure there was some stress involved in there somewhere, but for the most part, you were just kind of going with it. So where do you travel next?
The way I looked at it is that, so when you're 18, it's like you want to initiate yourself. We don't have a village that initiates us anymore. And so I self-initiated by doing all sorts of things. One of the big things I did was get into Tom Brown's tracker world. And I actually dropped out of college and lived in the woods for about 3 months with one other person. We killed a deer and used its hide. We did the whole thing. We were like living off the woods. We made moccasins out of the deer hide that we, we ate squirrels. We really did. And so that was amazing. That was an adventure. And then I came back and found a really cool college to go to that resonated with me. And that's when I started. When I was out in the woods, we would come once a week and teach children how to be in the woods.
Okay.
And that was the seed for me wanting to teach. So that was kind of the beginning of that when I was 18, and then that seed just continued to grow and grow as my adventures unfolded. And I felt like I was getting an opportunity to touch on a lot of different spirituality. Native American spirituality came in really strong. In Wisconsin, I had, there was a shaman there. There was another Lakota woman who taught us a lot of things. And so I felt like this is where I feel like the universe is in touch with me, because I was in the flow with the universe. And then suddenly just all these teachers came out of the woodwork all over the country. Literally, I was traveling on Greyhound all over the country, and an African man would start talking to me on the bus and blow my mind spiritually. And then I'd get off the bus, and then there's this Lakota woman who's ready to teach me Native American arts and crafts. I mean, it just really, I get goosebumps now just thinking about it, because I really was like, the universe was just saying yes to initiating me into the world of look at how much spirit there is. Look at all the different walks of spirituality there are, and how they all go to Great Mountain or Great Spirit or Enlightenment or whatever you want to talk about. So it was quite an adventureful time.
Would you say that you were aware of it being an initiation at the time and feeling that way at the time, or is this a reflection?
No, it was just adventure at the time.
Yeah,
and a reflection, I go, oh, I see what was happening there.
Right. Okay. No, that's cool. It's good to know, right? Because again, as we're going through it and we're young and we're just adventuring, we don't kind of really catch all the things that are happening.
Right.
And as we look back, we're like, well, that was really cool. I can't believe, for me, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't die.
Yes.
On a list of bad ideas, here's a whole bunch of them. And wow, something somewhere was looking out for me, right? A lot of times. But so I wanted to hit on the school that you found for yourself, that you're able to just kind of have kind of this alternative education. You want to share that school a little bit? Because I never heard of it, right? And I wouldn't even know to look for it.
Yeah, so this is Prescott College. It's in Arizona. I literally found this college because I was with a friend who was looking up conservatories or something, and this book fell off into my hands. It literally fell off into my hands when she was looking at other things, and it said, "How to Make a Difference in the World's College Guide." And I was like, "Oh my God, they have this?" It was that kind of, it was one of those things, and it was in there. And this place was amazing because they let you write your own degree plan. You write a contract for what you want to learn for every class, and you hand that into your teacher. So you're saying, this is what I want to get out of your class. And then your teacher looks at it and goes, pretty good. Or no, I'm going to actually be teaching this. How do you feel about that? So you're entering into a contract, a conscious contract every time with your teacher. Every class had 12 students or less. Every class had an experiential option. So if you're learning how to teach, you spend over half that time in the classroom teaching. So I had like 4 years of teaching, more than an average bachelor's degree in education would have, because of the way they did it at the school. I took African-inspired drum and dance. There were all these different courses that were offered. I took a course called Environmental Perspectives and Whitewater Rafting. That was my, because I have this fear of water. I was like, I'm facing my fear of water. I am going to go whitewater rafting for 30 straight days. And it was awesome. By the end of it, I was captaining rapids. So it was like,
Nice.
Okay, we're going to do this. And so it just, there wasn't a second of my education that I regret. There's so many people look back and they're like, what a waste of time college was. And I did not feel that way. I felt like I joyfully pay off my student loans because it was every second that I was there was unfolding. There was a spiritual element, an emotional element, a mental element, an academic element to every course. And it was a life changer. It was an absolute life changer. I can't say enough about that place.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds awesome that you were able to find something like that. And again, follow your bliss, for lack of better terminology,
Yes.
right? Just kind of follow your path and keep on stepping into something, and things kept showing up for you.
Yeah.
That you were able to do that, right? I mean, being able to skills in spiritual living, double minor in music, right? Like, I mean, just it's all of who you already were, and it's like, oh, here's a place where I can continue that. Versus like, all right, well, I guess it's business admin,
Right.
computer sci, or this other thing that I'll never use. But these were all things that helped you to. They were integral in your becoming.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's where I discovered Waldorf education, was at that. I was studying alternative methods, and that was so Waldorf was the one method that openly talks about the spirit of a child, the soul of a child, and how you educate that.
Yeah, let's expand on that, right? I know that I mentioned for a moment that that's something that we've looked at ourselves for our kids, because last year we had them out of school, which to me was like, that was awesome. Like, I was like, thank you, thanks pandemic. And we're sending them back. And look, the school systems have changed since I've been there. They're a little bit better. At the same time, it's like, to your point, I don't know that they explore the spiritual aspect of that. And
no, well, they're not allowed. You're actually not allowed to even talk about that openly. You get in trouble if you openly talk about that in public schools. It's the separation of church and state. So that means you can't even talk about the spiritual aspect of a child. You get in trouble. So
I mean, what's it look like at a Waldorf school then, in Waldorf education?
At a Waldorf school, you're required to meditate if you're a teacher. It's part of your what would you call it? Your job description is that you hold the children in meditation and you hold them in sacred space every day. That's part of the job description. And that's huge to me. That's why I chose that route. It has its shadow side because it's a private school, and so it only serves people who can afford the tuition. And that ended up becoming too much of a problem for myself, as far as like being in the whole institution of it was hard for me, because I really I'm always looking for ways to make whatever I'm offering available to anyone who wants it, especially regardless of their economic status. So that's the shadow side. But the wonderful side of Waldorf is that they teach through the arts. And in my opinion, the direct pathway to the divine is through the arts. It's so easy to access that feeling that I was talking about, that feeling of flow and connection and contentment with just what is, when one is doing art. And so it's integrated all day, every day. You're doing it all day, every day in the curriculum. And I loved teaching that way. I felt really, I also feel like it was one of the few places that really understood children and how a day should be morphed for them. So as you were saying, sit down, be quiet, have a pencil in your hand at the desk. There's very little time that they spend in their desk at a Waldorf school, if the Waldorf school is doing it right, in my opinion. So in fact, a lot of places even have mobile classrooms in the 1st through 3rd grades, where they literally don't have desks. They have these benches that they turn upside down, and they act as balance beams for most of the day. And then when you need to write, you have a flat surface. But other than that, it's a pretty awesome program of really honoring the child. What I have noticed is that now that my own children are 16, they are looking back going, God, you like protected us so much. And they're mad at me about that now as teenagers. So
Protected them how?
What's that?
Protected them how?
Just keeping them, maintaining their childhood. So the Waldorf education is a lot about like trying to keep the media out of a young child's life, trying to keep a TV out of the living room, trying to make baking and rhythm of the day a big priority and so it's really beautiful.
Sounds awesome.
to a teenager, it's stifling and horrible. You know,
No, it's straight hell, no doubt. I get it. I get it. Now, and absolutely. I mean, so I grew up in some backwoods places in Virginia that I was very, very remote, and not being able to, I don't know, go hang out with all the kids and all the places, or even have like a TV at some point was like, what the hell is this? Right?
Yeah.
This is bullshit. And of course now looking back, I'm like, wow, how lucky was I? That was absolutely gorgeous. And man, what would I give to like go back there, right? And have some more of that.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't appreciate it as a kid, right? You want all the things. Who am I going to play with out here?
It's greener. The grass is always greener. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're kind of on your journey. Then, like, you even like take off, like you go out singing around the world, like, and you keep growing all this stuff. I mean, we could probably talk a lot in this area, but one of the things I wanted to draw attention to was the fact that how you and I connected was through Lotus Lantern Healing.
Yes.
Right? We connected with Liliana. How do I say her last name?
Barzola.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we connected through her, through I think somebody that had worked with her before, and so here we are. But I wanted, what kind of work are you doing with Lotus Lantern? What brought you to the podcast today? Outside of this, this has been a fun conversation, of course. What's up? What are you doing?
Well, so now I'm doing a lot. The most of what we do at Lotus Lantern is energy reading. So you can come here, have us look at your energy system and look at what's blocked and clear it. So that's the magic of what we do in a very, very tight nutshell. And then what I also love about Lotus Lantern is we have all these offerings, these workshops. So we have writers retreats. We have a Defense Against the Dark Arts class that's really fun, Harry Potter inspired. I do a teen group that's kind of like what I was talking about. I want to be that human in somebody's life who can hold space. And so we have a teen group that teens can come and do just kind of learn these skills. Liliana has this amazing ABCDEFG program that really is kind of foolproof and not woo-woo, which I love. Having grown up as woo-woo, it's just really nice to have. She really starts with the foundation of grounding, tapping into the earth, aligning your energy, and having that be the foundation for your spirituality instead of going for that enlightenment or going for that goal of, she's like, it's right here. All the juiciness of life is right here, and we're working with it. And so those are some of the things that we offer, and it's really, really fun working for her. She is dynamic. She's this amazing Latina woman that's just like really vibrant, and she brings a humor and a joy to spiritual practice that I absolutely love and adore. That I did for a while. I was like in a Buddhist community or a yoga community, and it's so serious. And for me, I can't do it. I'm too much of a goofball, and she is a goofball. And so together we create ridiculous workshops where basically we're like laughing the whole weekend, and then we realize, oh my gosh, I feel really connected and awesome afterwards. So
sure, that was that was one of the things that when I first saw some of her work, she was doing, I think the in the car medium readings or whatever, right? And I thought that, I was like, this is so great, right? This is just like, it's fun, it's entertaining, she's doing her thing, and it's real, it's legit at the same time, and like this manner that's just like, it's fun. Yeah. Right. And I don't know if you checked out Spiritual Dope, like the website, or if you checked it out. It's just like, same, like I'm so over, like, this is the spiritual thing, and it's super serious and like heavy, it's saturated, and like, you're like, sometimes I like to curse, I like to swear, I like to do also, sometimes there's some things I like to do that they may not even be spiritual at all, right? Or like they may not even like relate to what I'm doing, but like I don't care. Like that's not the point of it. The point of it, I would say, is like to find that connection to yourself, like you were talking about. Where is that place that you can connect with within yourself that you call home,
Yeah.
right? Where is the place that you can go to with somebody like Liliana and yourself? You can have fun and feel connected, right? Not like where you're like, we can't talk right now because I'm connecting to God.
Right.
Now's not a good time for me. Now's not a good time.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about the first class I took with Liliana was she was like, I love troublemakers. And I was just like, that's me. I'm a troublemaker.
Nice.
And that's what I love about Lotus Lantern Healing Arts is it's all about whatever's coming up for you. That's what's supposed to come up. So let's say you're going totally unconscious. You're not even listening to what I'm saying. Awesome. And that's how I've always taught when I teach. That's how I just love working with what's right here. And so that's very, Liliana is so inclusive. She is so inclusive. Like whatever is coming in, she just greets it with, yes, that's awesome. We're going to work with that. That's great. And to me, that's true spirituality. If you're saying I can only meditate when it's dark and quiet and soft, that it is easier sometimes to meditate like that. But if that's the only time you can touch God, you're going to be in trouble because we live in a loud, crazy world. And if you can touch God while you're in the loud, crazy world, you're going to be better off.
What are some ways that you found that you're able to do that?
I think one of the biggest ways. So we have all these wonderful little tricks. So grounding a room, I'm walking into a room and it's crazy. It's a party. And as an empath, I could walk into that room and then, like you said, I'm going to have to fill in everybody's heart spaces that have holes. And that's really bad and dangerous and yucky for me to do energetically. Right. So I just go into a room and I grab the corners of the room and I ground it down into the earth. And I just set that intention. And so now I can be in the room and maybe I'll just like reground myself and just set that intention before I go into the space. And now I can go in and have a party and be with people and I've protected myself and I'm mingling and going through and having fun and sharing my joy with people. And in that moment, I'm feeling my feet on the ground. I feel aligned. I can feel spirit running through me. And I'm aware of all of that. And I can use that to just totally be present in a conversation and give the gift of my presence. And those are the skills that I've learned through Lotus Lantern. So that's kind of what we teach is how to be a person and how to survive those moments when you're like, oh, overwhelmed. Okay, I have this toolbox that I can go to. So those are some of the tools. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, I mean, I guess when you're grounding yourself, is it almost like a lightning rod for you, where you're letting the energy kind of pass through you versus kind of holding on to it? Is that how it's working for you?
Yeah, and I feel it like going through. Like I like to imagine it coming up from the earth, going up the front of me. I like to imagine something coming down and going down the back of me, and then just keeping that going. Like that's what feels good to me. And again, I think for other people that maybe you have something else that works for you, but that's the one that works for me because I am a goer and a doer, and I like it to be moving.
Right.
That's what me.
Like you've got like a vortex kind of running.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
Okay. No doubt. So I love that you're sharing what you're doing through Lotus and through Liliana, but I'm sure that you brought some things of your own with you. What are some of the things that you're owning that you do, like that you brought to this? Like, I mean, because my guess is she doesn't just take anybody on and be like, all right, you can just train with me. And maybe she does, but I'm sure that there was something that you brought where she's like, I need to have you with me. What are some of those things?
I mean, I think you'd have to ask her, but my guess is that there is a connection that I have with children and a connection that I have with teenagers that is very special. A knowledge that I have of where children are at spiritually. And that's pretty rare in this day and age to have there's a lot of people that have like pedagogical understanding of children, but to have an understanding of where somebody's at spiritually, developmentally that's kind of my specialty. So that's something and then the other thing she says I love is, and this is just the artist in me and also the Waldorf training, is that I tell stories. I tell stories all the time. So when we're doing a workshop, I'll be like, that's just like grandmother spider who blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden we're all in a kindergarten class listening to story time. And so that's also something that I like to bring. It's the musician in me, the artist in me that likes to spice anything up with a picture, with an image, with an imagination, and kind of making life more exciting that way. I'm not really big on lectures,
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm not a great storyteller by any stretch of the imagination, but I understand how it's supposed to work. And the deal is, you don't tell them, you show them, right? And so a good storyteller creates that visual and shows the story. Teen spirit, right? It smells like teen spirit. For 100, Alex, what's that look like for you, and being able to kind of suss that out, and being able to tell where the teens are in their journey?
My work with the teens has been magical. I feel like they're teaching me way more than I'm teaching them. Mm-hmm. Basically, what I'm doing is like holding space and being sometimes the only adult in their life who's not telling them what they have to do. So that's my gift that I give them, is like, here's a big open space. You're allowed to swear. You're allowed to tell me how depressed you are. You're allowed to be anxious. You're allowed to tell me how much you hate your friends. Like anything goes here. So that's my gift. And then the gift they're giving to me is, holy cow, it's really hard to be a teen in the world today. And I feel like every day I'm meditating and asking for more advice from my guides and my inner wisdom of how to help with that, because it is a very intense world to be a teen. If you imagine your own adolescence and then amplify it by having your social network be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on several platforms.
Yeah. First of all, I'd never get anywhere after that, right? Like, I mean, I don't know about you, and my wife and I always talk about the fact that, like, if we'd had that shit growing up, like, dunzo, right? Like, I mean, and I can only imagine the stupid stuff I would have posted too. Like, it'd be just like anybody else that does it on like a spring break, right? You're like, woo, right? So glad that I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So that's what I've been, and again, I feel like for instance, this last girls group, the teen empowerment group that I did, what they just kept asking about was, how do I deal with toxic relationships? How do I deal with toxic relationships? How do I deal with toxic relationships? So we just really started digging into, like, what is that? And, I'm teaching them how to be strong enough in themselves that whatever comes at them, they can just go, washu, washu, washu. That's what I'm teaching them. And then they're bringing to me like, okay, this time it didn't work. So what do I do then? And so then we talk about it in the circle. Okay, what would you do? What would you have done?
Yeah. Just kind of explore the scenarios with them, and just, I guess, again, sounds like you're giving them support and encouragement and the empowerment and Wonder Woman moves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And we play a lot of games too, which lightens it up. So then it's not, oh my God, my whole life's over because that one friend doesn't like me anymore.
Sure.
It's okay. Well, let's make that into a game, and let's play around with it. That person's going to role play your friend, and now you have the power to make her say whatever you want. And then they, so there's like things that we do that we play around with that, kind of helps lighten the mood too, because that's the gift that I learned from Liliana too, is just that you can have the darkest, craziest stuff coming at you, but if you greet it with a big smile, it's got no power. It's got no power. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's great. So if somebody's checking in today, right? Let's do this first. We'll do, I was liking this to spiritual speed dating. Somebody's checking in on the podcast today. They're looking for their next spiritual speed date, right? Jenna, it could be you. It could be Bachelorette number 1. Let's have spiritual questions. What are we thinking today? Oh, you know what? I already asked that one. What's the key? No, don't like that one. What would you consider to be 2 major turning points in your life? Go with that.
Two major turning points in my life. First one was moving from the desert to the city. Major
Big
turning.
one. Yeah.
Another major turning point was becoming a mother.
Mm.
That one knocked me on my ass in a way I could not even imagine. I fell so in love. My whole definition of love changed the second my adoption were.
Absolutely right. I mean, that's a game changer. Game changer. I think that you already love, love, and then you get in your relationship, love,
Mhm.
but then the kids show up. You're like, oh, this is something else, right? There's a what you thought was love was like a puddle. I don't
Yep.
know, right?
Yep.
Now you're in a vast ocean
Yes.
of it,
Yes.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I was asking myself this earlier today. I don't know that I'm still seeking or that I found. Would you consider yourself a seeker, or do you think you found what it was that you're looking for and you're just continuing to explore that space? Where are you at in that?
Yeah, I do. I think I found, and I think what my journey is right now is to have a daily practice of touching into that found place. That's my work right now. It's like I have all the tools that I need for being happy, and now I have to use them. That's where I'm at right now in the journey. Yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. What do you think is one or two of your most recently found tools?
Sitting at the base of a tree. That one's been really big. I used to do it a lot when I was little. Like I would just do it. And maybe it's just from living in the city and being kind of confined to our house during COVID times. But I found I need sometimes to just get out and actually be physically touching a tree. I don't know what it is about that, but I just need that reminder of something that's got its roots way down deep, deep in the earth. So that's been one. And I guess the other one is just, I don't know how this has happened. I feel like it's an after effect of a lot of spiritual work, but I just don't take things very seriously anymore. And so when stuff starts coming at me, it's just kind of like, oh, good, here comes another wonderful growth opportunity, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm gonna die and my life's over. And so
Right.
and I don't know exactly how I've cultivated that, other than it just seems like the only option sometimes.
For sure. Right. Like, I mean, all right, well, here we go again.
Yeah.
Right. At least I don't have to wait in line for this ride.
Great.
Awesome. So this, I mean, been a blast. I think that you've got a lot to share. Who, in marketing world, right? And you're always supposed to define your niche, or who's your ideal customer, who you really trying to reach out to, and who do you feel like you would serve best at this point?
I think the person that I would serve best is the person who really wants to take the next steps to connecting to a spiritual practice or a spiritual world. That person that's experiencing stuff and feels like they're going crazy. I'm that person who can say, actually, you're not crazy. It's just, let's just look at things a little differently. And then you'll see that you're actually really powerful. So I really love, I love working with all people. Anything you give me, I love. But I really love it when people are just taking that first step or a new step into something, into the next level, or maybe it's their first step ever into, like, I think I'm going to start a meditation practice or something. I love that. I love working with that person who's ready and willing. Like, I've had an experience. I know there's something out there. I want to dig a little deeper. Can you tell me more? And I big yes from me.
You're setting them up, right? That's perfect. You're setting them up so they don't crash and burn. There's at least like a little bit of it's almost like you're setting up the big fluffy bed and couch where they can just dive into it, right? All right,
Yes.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you've got you're at the Lotus Lantern site. Where should people go specifically to connect with you?
I have a website that's acousticvitality.org. So that's where you can get direct contact with me. And that's what you'll see. I've got my music on there, my art, and then if you want to do a healing session or if you want to do a session with your teen, I can do all of that kind of stuff.
So I was wondering, do you do any of the energy work remotely?
Yeah, I do all of it remotely right now. Yeah, we don't.
How much time is it going to take to fix this?
You're so not broken. You're so not broken.
For sure. How do we, I think you wrote something that was really good too, that I enjoyed was something about, rounding the edges, right? Versus, just kind of, we'll say that it's almost like who was it, Michelangelo, when he's doing the marble work. It's already all there. It's just, refining it. So
yeah, rubbing off those rough edges that we're always doing. Yeah.
Well, Jenna, so much fun to have you here. I love the work that you're doing. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to connect. Thanks for, sticking with the long wait. I know, like I said, that it's been a long time, but really glad that we're able to connect today. And that's it.
Thank you so much. You're awesome.
Really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Spiritual Dope Podcast. Stay connected with us directly through spiritualdope.co. You can also join the discussion on Facebook, Spiritual Dope, and Instagram at spiritual_dope. If you would like to speak with us, send us an email through brandon@spiritualdope.co. And as always, thank you for cultivating your mindset and creating a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking part of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay fully up to date. Until next time, be kind to yourself and trust your intuition.